without I told, right? Can anyone tell what are the two ways? One is load data local in path, and what is the second way? Nobody remember?
Maybe
Like
we can
we
use the insert command.
Cannot do insert because table to table insertion you want to do, then only we use insert into. Okay, but when you want to load file, the two ways are there. Load data local path command, and second one you directly put command, Hadoop put command to put the file in the same location. If it is a internal table, put in the warehouse directory location. If it is a external table, so put the file in the external directory location, whatever directory you give. So once you copy the file in the location, you will get the data into the table. So one way is this load data. The load data is for only files from the files, but then we can load the data from table to table, insert into command. But the second way is common to both. Second one is okay. Second one is like I say, I have a file in my local file system, my home directory. Okay, from home directory, my hive test folder. My file name is the test.txt. Okay, and in this particular directory, if I do Hadoop fs minus put command and this test.txt, if I copy to user hive warehouse, okay, and my database folder will be first, right? So my database name is, yesterday we created database, okay? So my database is suppose my db.db, okay? Then slash my table is my table name. So in this table, if you copy this file, your work is done. Now, if you do in hive shell, select star from my table, you will get a table. So it's the same alternate thing, right? Like data is data. Either you use the Hadoop command, hive command, load data local path command. This is the hive command. This load data. This is the hive shell. You will run the command load data local in path. Okay. So either you run this command, that is also doing the same thing what you are doing. So this is doing indirectly, you are doing directly. This is you are doing directly the same thing, and what they are doing indirectly, this is the same thing they are doing indirectly. Okay? So you are not able to see that part. Okay. So, but like after the both the command, either you run this or this, you will get the same result, right? You will get the text. Okay, what is the main difference between the internal and external table? Main difference.
So if we drop the table for internal table, it deletes the table and also the underlying data. For external, it will only delete the table structure, but not the underlying data.
Table like structure or schema will be deleted. So the meta store DB, you are taking that schema, right? So that schema is deleted. So your table will no longer exist, right? But still the data will remain at the same position. So data will be just like a data. Okay. So you will, when you will say select star from table, so table not found command, table will not found, right? So that error you will go. Okay. Okay. Okay, so today I'm going to tell about partitioning and bucketing. These are very important concepts. So first we need to understand partitioning concept, and I will show you the demo of the partitioning, how partitioning is being done. And there are two types of partitioning in Hive, static and dynamic. Okay, so we will understand when we go for static, when we go for dynamic partitioning. So far we have seen hive architecture and five different types of tables. Okay, two types of tables are there. So internal table and external table. Internal and external. And next is hive partitioning. Partitioning is a very important concept because it is improving the performance of your queries. Okay, so partitioning, the main use is improving performance of query. So generally, you are writing a select query, right? Most of the times we are writing the select, right? Because insert, update, delete, right? We are doing sometimes we do insert, sometimes update also you will do, but most of the times we are fetching the data. Analytics purpose we will do select. Okay. So when we talk about analytics, right? Analytics means the analytics of the data using the SQL queries, right? Using the queries, right? So when we are writing a select query, so we know, right, select queries sometimes taking more time to fetch the data. So there are the some certain regions are there. So there are the some performance tuning is there, right? We say don't use the select star because select star means all the columns we are going to fetch, right? So instead of that, whatever columns you need, you get only those columns, right? You just do suppose ID, name, city, okay, from my table. So like this you do. Sometimes you are loading the entire table data. If table is really very huge, so use the limit keyword, right? Limit 5 or limit 10, 100, right? So just you need to see the sample data. You can do the limit. But these are just normal SQL queries, okay? But I'm saying I have my table, but still I want to improve the performance. Some where conditions are there. I'm talking about that performance. Suppose I'm saying select star from my table and I say where city. So I'm assuming it like I have a one column city. There are the different cities data is there. Okay. So when I say one city is city C1 data, right? So when I say this city C1, it will be what it will be doing internally. It will be checking each city value and find out whether the city is matching or not matching. If city is matching, then it will fetch the data, right? So what it need to do, can you think of what it will have to do? Every record it has to check. Every record city it has to check. It has to check every record city city value, and match and get this record. Get the record. Get the record for city. If city is C, for get the record if city is C1. City is C1, right? I'm going to fetch that. So if I'm saying if my table has 100 record, it is fine. It will take less time. But suppose my table has 100 and 1,000 records are there and only 2 or 3 record of same city C1 is there. But do you think out of 100,000, except 3 times, it has to check all the times, every record it has to check, right? So it means my performance is degrading here. My performance is degrading because it is doing entire table scan. It is doing entire entire table scan. What is table scan? Table scan means each and every record to check. Record check means particular column, city column to check. Okay. Then find the uh, exact record. Okay. Which record has city C1. So if I want to avoid this, what I can do? So the solution is partitioning is the solution. So partitioning is the solution. Like I don't want to scan the whole table. Okay. Instead of that, I keep it my data in the partitions. And when I say where city equal to C1, I should get the data directly from the partition. So can you think it how much faster it will be? It will be definitely more faster. Suppose if I say you, I have some 100 items are there. I have given you 100 items. And I'm saying these 100 items, you divide into 10 different types, 10 different types you divide. Okay. Okay. And when I come to you and I ask you, give me this one type of item. Okay. So what you will do? You have 100 items. You already kept it 10 items. You kept it separately at your side. And when I come to you, you are not going to search in front of me. You are not going to search, right? Because you already done that part. Okay. So what you did, you are giving me quickly my 10 items. Okay. What I'm expecting. This one type of item you are giving to me. Okay. So you are not searching in front of me. The same thing I'm saying here. If I divide my table data logically keyword I'm using here, not physically. Logically, I'm saying because the data size will remain same, but table will internally divide the data into logical 10 different groups or 10 different or how many number of cities are there, it will divide the data. And whenever I say I need the city C1, so it will provide me the data from that partition, that whatever logical group is appropriate for me. Okay. So partitioning is basically partitioning is divide the table data logically into partitions or number of records, group, and these partitions will be given and it is needed. Okay. So it means one thing is clear. I need to create some partition table, right? So I have to create some create table. Okay, I will create table and I have a fields in the table. Okay, create table and I say ID is integer type, name is the string type. Okay, age is their integer type. But I want to keep it one column partition by, I say city is my partition column. Like I want to keep it all employees city name. So city is a string type. So I'm dividing here. I'm just writing the partition by city. So one thing you find here, whenever you define the partition by column, this column will not be the part of table. It's a logical column. This logical column, whenever the data will come in the table, okay, my table name is EMP table. So when the data comes in this EMP table, it will be automatically distributed into logical data, right? So when I do the select query on this partition table, okay, I say my partition table name is EMP partition. Okay. And this EMP partition table, I do where clause city equal to C1, I will get the data from the partition. So did you understand what is the need of partition? How we can, what is the solution of the partition? The solution of the partitioning is we can create a partition table. And this partition table, right, we can also load the data into partition. So there are the two ways to load the data into partition table. One is a static way, and one is a dynamic. Static way is more number of times you have to add the data, right? Suppose I have 100 cities. So 100 times you have to run your load data command to load a different cities data into partition table. But dynamic partition is the automatic partition. Suppose you have some source table. I say I have a one employee underscore source table, normal table. Okay. And this normal table, I have ID column, name column, age column, and city column. So what I did here, I have a one source table which has all four columns. And I created a one partition table with the employee partition. So fee field I use as it is, ID, name, age, but city column I made as a partition column. So if I want to say from this table to this table, I want to load the data into how many cities are there, it will automatically create the partition. So in this case, we will go for dynamic partition. So dynamic partition is used for table to table. Okay. But static can be used like file to table or table to table also. It is possible for both. But dynamic is only table to table because you will give a one source table and one target table, and source will write the data to the target. Okay. So once your data comes in this partition table, then you can do the query on your partition table. So I told there are the two ways to create partition, right? Either static way or dynamic way. Okay. So we have to check, okay, when we go for static, generally static is referred when your number of partitions are very less. Okay. Suppose whatever column you are using, that column has very limited partitions. So okay, if I'm taking a genders, I want to write the data, male and female data. So in this case, I have to run my query two times. Two-time query I have to run. One I have to run for the male partition, one for female partition. But cities, countries, these are too large number of partitions, right? So we cannot run more number of times we can load data. We cannot load, okay? So we go for dynamic partition. So first thing is partitioning is making your query retrieval data faster because you are retrieving data based on some where clause column. You are getting the data faster because partitioning is making the logical group of the data. And then you are querying this logical group data partition table and getting your record. Okay. So if I want to start the practical of the partitioning, so first I have to define some scenario, right? Which type of scenarios, like country, city kind of scenarios is there, right? Any scenario where you should have repeated data of your some column. In a one particular column, your data is number of time repeated. Then the partition comes in the picture. If I say every values is the unique values, it's no use of partition there, right? I will not create the partition on the ID column. I will not create the partition on the name column, and age column I will not do. Age column is a chance is there if I have to do analytics on the age. But generally our criteria are the city, countries. Okay, those are the main criteria, right? Or we have region wise, right? I want to do the analytics, sales. Okay, so in e-commerce website we have region wise sales is there, right? And I want to aggregate total sales. Okay, I want to get the average of the sales. So then in that case, region will be my partition criteria. So partition is means where the value is more number of times repeated, not one, two times, maybe 10 times, 50 times, 100 times, right? Where we can make a group of the data, make the group of the record based on that column values. Is it clear this concept first? And it is running. To share this note. So this is the same thing which I explained to you so far. Is this part is their query, right? So why we need partitioning and what is the advantage of the partitioning? What is partitioning is called? Partitioning is the logical division of the data. Static and dynamic partitioning. Okay. Static when we partition less number of, so male, female data is the one example, right? Dynamic partition when we are loading data dynamically, automatically the data is loaded, right? When the number of partitions are. Okay, now we are going to start like static partition. So static partition, two use cases are there. One is file to table and table to table. So when we are loading the data into partition table from file, that is static. And when we are loading the data from table to table, that is also static. Okay. So, but static means here number of times we have to write the data. That's the only static. Static means suppose you are loading the data 10 partitions. Okay. So 10 times you have to load data. That is the problem in the static. But dynamic is in one single write will load the data into number of partitions, right? It could be 100,000, any number of partitions. Okay? So just take a data. So I'm assuming it, I have one table. I want to create a one table, student one to static. Okay. And there are the student name, father name, and percentage. And my partition column name is a section. So section means like one student is having different section, right? Okay. So A section and B section, right? So I have a two section file. I say this is the student ID, this is the father name, and this 67 is the percentage. So if I say this record and this record, these two record are the section A record. Okay, and this is my section A file. This is my section B file. Okay, so how to populate the data in the partition table? Once you create a partition table, you need to populate the data because partition table will not be automatically partitioned. Like initially, we have to load the data either static way or dynamic way. Okay, so here the idea is you have the partition table where you define the student ID, father name, percentage, and partition column is section. So when I will load the section A data will be loaded into the partition table. When I load the section B file, my section B data will be loaded. So when I query my partition table where section equal to A, which data will come? This data will come. When I do the section B, this data will come. So here you can see this data is coming through partition because this particular table is a partition table. Okay. Okay. The first is I create a one partition table. Okay. I create a one partition table. So I will select my database, in which database I want to do. So you add. Today we created some tables here. My table one is there. I'm going to create another table. So I created here one student one to static partition. This is my table. Okay. How to see the create table syntax? Show create table and student one create create. It will be giving me. So this is an internal table and it is created in the warehouse, right? Okay. But this table is a partition table. If you try to load the data as a normal table, the data will be not loaded because you have to specify the partition. Okay? So whenever you create a partition table by using partition by clause, so you cannot load data command is there for the loading the data into partition table, but there is a little changes there. If you see load data local in path, at the end, we are giving partition name also. So if you try this command only, okay, I will show you. If you try this command only, it will not load data because it will say this is a partition table and you cannot load the data as a normal table. Okay. So partition table need to specify partition clause. Okay. So I create these two file I create. Okay. So I open another. I'm creating a separate directory so my files will not be mixed. Okay. So I'm creating a file cat. I will give the file name is section underscore A and I will write the content and control D. Second one, I will be writing the setting file and this setting file contain this Let's see. I'm preparing the two files. This is a sample data. Now, if I check, my two files are created, and this is my location of the file. Okay. Now, I have to load the data in this partition table. So I will be using load data local in path command. But I have to change here my path. What I need to change, load data local in path. Okay, whenever you copy, this single code, you change, because while copy from the Windows to Unix, right? So this single code will change. Okay. So what is my directory name here? Hive test 3. Hive test 3. Telling here hive test 3. Okay. And into table, my table name is correct. Okay, but I don't give this partition clause. Okay? I don't give partition clause. Let's say it will be inserted as the null will be inserted, because whatever file we are loading, there is no column is a section, right? Only 3 columns data is there. Here we have 3 columns, only 3 columns. So when you are writing data, okay, now I check the data. Not really. Okay. Actually, Hive is maintained as a default partition. Okay. Because you have not given any partition, right? So what Hive did, Hive gave this partition. And this partition is no use for me. What is the use of this partition? Will you do the where clause this query? Okay. You will not do, right? Suppose another table you want to insert. Suppose you say you are going to insert section B. So section B will be created also the same partition name. Okay. So this is no use of data, right? Because this partition is not an actual partition, right? This is not a, so suppose this data also you inserted. So all the 4 record will have the same partition name is Hive default partition. So Hive default partition is not your desired partition, right? You're not section. So you can't identify your data, whether it's a section A or section B, because all data will be as Hive default partition. So that is the reason whenever you are writing data, it is not giving error, but it will make it all partition as a Hive default partition. So Hive default partition, generally when we keep it, when I think, okay, this data is my, no partition is there, I don't know the partition, okay, I can keep it as a default. But when I have my own actual partition, I should use that partition clause. So generally, when you're writing the data, load data local path command, you should always define partition. So it is your responsibility. If you forget to add the partition clause at the end, you will have to, that data will be no use. Okay. So Hive will not give you the error you are missing the partition. Hive will not give you the error. It will use the default partition strategy and it will write the data into partition. Okay. So if you know, first you check show create table command and check whether it's a partition table, then always use the partition specification at the end of the table. So show create table student 1, 2 in this one. So first you check, is it partition table or not? If it is partition table, use always like partition tables. Now the data is already inserted. How to delete the data? So, so the file is created. If you see Hadoop fs minus ls command and you give the location, user file, warehouse, and this is my location of the data. So if you remove that file, then your data will be deleted. So when you check the directory, your table directory, this is your table directory. So it has created as a partition, logical column is created, one logical folder is created. So suppose if you have how the Hive is maintaining the partition. So if you are not using partition table, everything is going directly as a one single file. But here is one file is created for one partition, right? So here is this is a one directory, and inside this directory, one file will be there. So you have to remove this directory, okay, because this directory we will remove RMR and give this directory to remove the. Okay, you remove the data. Can you see the data is there? Data is not there. But if I do show partitions, and then I give the table name, partition is here, right? So logically, it is not deleted. Physically, you delete it because you found the data and you found the data partition is not correct and you remove the data. So logically also you have to delete this partition. So there is a alter table command, alter table, drop partition. And then you have to give partition name with value. So this is the value of your default partition. Alter table, table name will come. So we have to tell which table. Table name. My partition is dropped. Now if I say show partition, so there is no partition, right? And logically and physically both I delete. Okay. So what I was saying, like whenever you are going to create a partition, so give with the partition clause. So I showed you if you don't give the partition clause, if you forget, it will not give you the error. It will it will basically create a default partition, and that partition is no use for you. So see, this is my directory where my section A file is there. So now I'm going to run this load data local path command, and my data is loaded into one partition. Second one we have to. So this is a static. So static means every time for one partition you are loading one file. Okay, because each file is related to one partition, right? Okay, each file is one partition, and you know, right? This local keyword we are using local load data. This is from the local file system. So another load data command is there, but that is only in path. When your data is not in the local path, it is in the Hadoop path. Okay, so in that case, we will not use local keyword. We will use load data in path. But this particular data is in our local file system. Now, if I do the query to my partition table, so now first we check the show partition command. Okay? Now, how many partitions should come? How many partitions should come? 3 or 2? How many times I run the load data command? Yeah, I'm asking, right? Load data command, how many times I run here? 1 time, 2 times, 3 times,
2 times.
2 times. So how many partitions will be created?
2 partitions.
Partitions, right? Because I am giving section A is the one partition. The partition meaning is something logical value, right? So I'm saying keep it one partition for name section A, one partition for section B. So if I run this command, so section equal to A, my one partition, section B is a one partition. If I see my folder structure, right? If I see my folder structure in my this is the same file. This is my table directory. If I see in this one, there are two folder structures are created. If I go inside this one directory section equal to A, okay, so it is representing this is my partition column, and A is the value of that partition column value. Right. If I say section column, just think about section is a one column and you have A two times and B is two times. If you do the query, select star from student 12 underscore STAT. Here you will not, here you are seeing it is a logical column, but still the value is coming. All the values are coming for two A's, two B's. But if I say I want to apply the where clause here, section equal to A. So this is normal, same query you are writing, same like you write in the normal table. Okay, so selecting data is nothing is a difference, but how fast the data is coming, that is the difference. If I do this query, this is coming from the partition. Okay. See, this is just I showed you two record, but suppose your record for the A, like 10,000 records are there. So definitely it will take time in the normal table clause, where clause. But same thing you are doing in the partition, you will find the difference. If you are having 100,000 records and you want to find just 10 record is a record in that 100,000 record. So you will see your data will be coming so fast. You will not see here the difference because here is just total 4 records, right? How much difference you can find here. Okay. But if the same data with the large data is there, and then you are trying to do apply your partition, then you will see it. Now, B, if I want to get the data of the B table, this will come from the partition. So this is coming from the partition table. Okay. So I wanted to show you the location, right? We have to check the location of my table where the data is stored, the file. So I'm checking section equal to A folder. So can you see whatever section A file you loaded, it created a one file, section A. This is a file, right? Because there is no D, right? It's a file. Now I want to see the content of this file. I do Hadoop fscat command. Cat, then exclamation means. Without that, you cannot find it. Hadoop fs minus cat. You will see to record data. Here is no partition name because it is understood. This is a section A. So definitely it's a section A data. If I say section B, right? So this file data is a section B. I have to change the folder also. Section B has this file, section underscore B. So you can see the data is stored in a directory and directory has the file. Okay. So for every partition, it creates a one directory. Okay. One directory it creates and the directory with the partition name and with equal partition value. And that one has the file. Okay. So your file is not residing directly in the table. In the normal table, this part will not come. This part will not. So here, even you can directly put the file in the partition folder, your data will be populated. So load data command or you use put file command, Hadoop put command, that will work same whether you do for partition table or non-partition table. There is no difference. Just you need to check if you are going to write a data in Hadoop FS put command, you should use complete partition folder. Here you have to write the file. Whatever file will come here, automatically the partition will be populated. Okay. If you are going to put the file directly. If you are using a load data local command, so you have to give proper your partition name you have to tell in the command. Because one is you are directly putting in the file location, right? Folder location of your partition, you are putting a file. And another way is you are doing a load data local command, you are putting the file in that partition location. So here you are specifying the partition. So this is the static we have done, file to file. Now next is file to table, table to table. So table to table, I'm assuming I have another table, a source table I have. I have given this example to you. I have already some source table, which is not partition table, non-partition table. And this non-partition table, I have the section column. So this non-partition table, I will load the data manually, the normal way. So till here, there is no role of partition. It's just creating a normal source table. Okay. So I'm creating a one source table. I'm going to create a source table. I kept it name in the source so that I can understand this is my source table. And this source table, I will create some file for the source table. So I'm keeping it all the section data in a one single file. Because I will load from this source file, to the partition. So here I will do cat command and I will keep name section of XT. And I will load the data. I will create the data. Okay. So my all the section data in a one single file is there. Okay. Now I will load the data in this source table. Okay. So this is a normal command. This is not a partition load data because this is table is normal table. So here I'm loading data. I have to change the location. Right, that's true. Five test 3 sections.txt. So whatever name you give, because here is a case sensitive, right? If you give extension, then you give extension. If you have not given extension here for your input file here, so don't give extension. So otherwise it will say fine. Into table, I'm loading data into my source. If I query my source, so it is normal table, right? So I will get student12 underscore source. All 4 columns data I'm having. But one thing is here, when you create a source table, keep it your section column, the last column. Okay. That is requirement. Because why it is? Because this last column, it will be understood as your partition column to map. Okay. So now we have to create one more partition table. So we are creating a one more partition table. Right? This is a partition table. Actually, we are not doing the experiment in our existing partition table. We can do, but I'm keeping it separate partition table so that we can see entire demonstration. Okay? So the command is same, only just I made it underscore stat underscore part. Okay, so I have little bit change. I name I change. Okay, just create this one. This is creating your again one partition table. It is created same way, right? Whatever we did last. Okay, now this time you will do insert command. You remember last time you were doing load data because you are loading data from the file. Now your data has come into source table, and from source table you are loading data into partition table. So when you are insert into table command you are running, so here you are specifying your source table name and you are saying here where clause. If you don't give this where clause, what will happen? What will happen here? So this insert into, this is a target table. This is your partition table. And partition name, you are specifying in which partition you want to load. If you don't do this partition name, it will go to default partition. You already know, right? So partition clause we have to give in which partition you want to load data. So this is a symmetry. Whatever partition you are giving here, same partition you should where clause. Otherwise, if you don't give the where clause, all the data will go in a one partition. So what will happen? This A, B, everything will go in a one partition. Okay. So better to give the where clause, and it will where clause means it will take only two records, because when it will query this table, only two record will come, right, in this where clause. Okay. When I'm going to load the second table, B, so just change here B, change it here B. Okay. But you have to specify all the column names here. So you have to specify except the section, because section why we don't need to give, because that is a partition column. We don't need to specify section, because in our target table, there is section is a logical column. So we don't need to manually insert the data. Okay. So this A, B, this part will be taken care by this partition clause. Okay. So when I run this query, so how many times you are running the query? As many number of times you have partition. Student source. Student source is same. Student 12 underscore source. Okay. Change this one. Student. So this names you corrected. Okay. Maybe when you get the document. So just think about it, like what is the problem. So if something is getting wrong, so just analyze it like table not found. So which table it's saying, this table you name. So it is running a map reduce job. So it is see loading the data from the file. It is quickly load the data, but when you are writing the data from the table, it's running a map reduce job. Okay. So now if you query, select star from the partition table you query. This is your partition table. There. So right now we have added only one partition data. So only one is coming. So it is not a difference like data is inserted in a different. The data is the only thing is here is in this case, we are not doing data loading from the file, because file data you have to load one by one file. But suppose you don't have file, you have all the data in a table, but still you have to run those many number of times you have to run the command. So again, second time you have to run the second one. This table means student one. So what I'm saying is, even the file also you are loading two times. Here also loading the two times. If suppose these partitions are 100 partitions, so 100 times you are loading. This is the static. Okay. But dynamic case, when you will see the dynamic, I will show tomorrow. The dynamic case is only one single insert command you will write, 100 partition will be loaded automatically. So you will not write one by one, all the command like you are loading in the file or loading from the table in static. But still I'm saying static is static because sometimes I don't think any importance of dynamic. So I can go for static. Okay, when I'm sure my number of partitions will be fixed. When I think my partitions are not fixed, then I can do for that. Okay, so this is also one issue. If I'm trying here, cannot insert target table because column and number of types column different. So your target table has 3 columns, but your query has 4 columns. So here, don't give the section column, because section column is not required, because section column is as a logical column in the target table, partition table. So that column is not provided. That's the reason I told partition column should be the last column. So that is the reason we don't need to give that partition column in your select query. Just where clause you remember. Forget this where clause, your data will be, all data will be loaded. It will not give you an error. You have to think about it. Okay? What the data you are taking from the source and what the data you are writing into the target. Okay? Now, your query, now if you do B here, so you will get the B partition data. If you don't give any partition, what will do? Both will come, right? Complete select star from table data. So here is nothing difference of the reading writing data. Only difference is we have changed the approach of loading data into partition table. So one approach is loading data from file and one approach is loading data from source table to target table. But in both the cases, we are loading data manually and loading data number of times the partitions are. Okay? So that is static. And that we will overcome in dynamic by running a single command. We will insert. So only insert command is the difference in the static and dynamic. You see, this insert command is the only difference. Otherwise, creating a table, partition, loading data into, so only loading data is different. Only one single insert command we can do. So there is no load data command because we are not loading from the file to table in case of dynamic. So we are running directly table to table. So just run one single command and you are not giving any partition value. Are you giving any section equal to A or B here, both sides? No, right? But dynamic partition is not a default partition. It is by setting with this properties, your partition will be enabled. Dynamic partition is allowed. Otherwise, if you try without dynamic partition, you try this query. Okay. Suppose I create a one dynamic partition table. And we don't need to create a source table again because source table we can use the same. Okay. This is a dynamic partition table I create. Okay. Now in this dynamic partition table, this is just a schema I created, so we can delete. Not okay. So now okay, now the dynamic partition table is created. Now if I try to insert data, okay, just I change here my student source 1, 2. This is my source table, right? Okay, and my dynamic partition table name is student 1, 2 underscore dyna underscore part. Partition, I'm saying section is my dynamic partition column name. And here we have to give the column name. Okay, this column. So if I'm trying this one, just check what error will come. Actually, I'm trying to, without enabling the dynamic partition, I'm trying to insert student 1, 2 source. Now, can you see dynamic partition strict mode require at least one static partition column? To turn this off, use this set property. They are giving, I told two properties, but this property is a mandatory property. Okay. Another second property is one is a non-strict mode and one is a dynamic partition equal to 2. If you don't give this property, it is fine, but this property is required. Only this property. Right? Because you are saying you want to allow non-restriction. Okay. On your dynamic partition, you want to allow. So when you run this property, okay, you run the set command. After that, you try dynamic partition. Now dynamic partition is aligned. So you will see by this insert into command, you will get a two partitions automatically. Because how many data is there? Different partition values in your source file, source table, two, right? So if you do query on your dynamic partition table, let's start from with your dynamic partition table name. So dynamic partition is very easy to do, right? Or if your source table is ready, so dynamic partition is just enable the dynamic property and run insert into table command. Can you see? Now if I check section equal to A, where section equal to A, you can get A data. So you can see here, I just run one time insert, right? And my both the partitions are loaded. Suppose in my source table has three partitions, A, B, C, three partition values data is there. So automatically three partitions. If you do show partition command, show partition, and then you give the table name, A section equal to A section B. Okay. So you can add more partitions also. Suppose it's not fixed, like once you create a table, now you cannot add the partition. So there is a alter table add partition command. One command is a alter table drop partition, which I already shown to you. So these two commands can add the partition or remove the partition, existing partition. So this is called partition management. I will talk about this partition management tomorrow. What are the other commands also there? We can rename the partitions. We can copy the partitions. So a lot of commands with the partitions. So how you can do partition management, right? Okay. So anybody has any question so far? Okay. I will upload the file. Okay. The same file I will give whatever file I use. So if you find any syntax or anything, just check in my video and correct it. Okay. Because maybe you find, okay, some table is not found or something. So just properly follow step. You will easily do it. Okay. Okay. I will prepare the one text document with all the command what I have run, and then you try properly step by step. So try with that and let me know tomorrow if you get any problem. Okay, yeah. And if anybody is having problem, please let me know. Tomorrow is the last date for this hive installation because I can ask anyone, right, to show the hive, okay, and show any command to run. I can ask. Okay. So be ready, right? Because if tomorrow, if I don't find anybody's installation issue, right? So I will assume it like everybody's hive is running, and I can ask to show machine and show the run any command. I will give command to you, but you have to run the command. Okay. It could be an internal external table or it could be a partition, anything. I will guide and instruct, but I want the installation things will be ready. Okay, if anybody has problem, you can ping me separately. I will solve the issue. Thank you.